Welcome everybody to the DC New 52 review. I want to thank you for tuning into this episode. I am your host, Pauly DC, and let's get into another one of these things. Today, I will review Green Arrow Vol.2. It was titled Triple Threat, and it was written by Nocenti with art by Harvey, Tolibao, and issues 7 to 13 were released between April and November of 2012. Green Arrow, Oliver Queen's opening adventures pitted him against a slew of new villains in his home turf of Seattle, Washington, while also giving the Emerald Archer a cast of characters outside the costume, focusing more on the Queen Industry side of things, and for this edition, both parts of him are involved as more enemies come about while his company is put into serious jeopardy. Issue number 7 begins in Seattle again with GA among some rooftops going on in soliloquy like a modern day Hamlet, but that's not the appropriate Shakespeare tragedy here because Arrow goes on to quote King Lear right before being ambushed by a peppering of mini dart arrows and then a hummingbird that screws up his aim at whoever attacked him, which winds up being a trio of identical blonde triplet females collectively known as Skylark, who work for their powerful father, it is said, and if you're thinking that's a bit on the nose since Ollie just mentioned King Lear, just you wait. Anyway, the gals claim to be gadget makers and want to work for our titular hero, inviting him to their lab in Canada. No specifics, just Canada. Next thing we know, Oliver is at his wing of Queen Industries called Q-Core, motor-mouthing to all of his business associates, which only makes him look like a major ass. Then he tells the only two people aware that he's Green Arrow that he's quote-unquote quitting due to now being very horny, being needed on some hero stuff. And this has his tech girl Naomi and weapon maker Jax seriously confused. Y'all ain't alone. GA goes on to take the Skylark triplets on one of his company jets, meaning he just idiotically gave a huge hint to his secret ID, but apparently there are other things on his mind, such as being able to make any straight male extremely envious with the story he'll be able to tell after this flight is over. Speaking of that, upon arriving in the Great White North, Arrow is immediately attacked by the girls after being told his plane was taken away, so he takes them on, and the way that he fought multiple foes in Volume 1, you'd think this fight would be easy for him, but instead he's knocked out by a tranq dart in about 8 seconds. Skylark next is seen telling the tied-up Green Arrow that they honey-trapped his dumbass using pheromones. Still no excuse for Ollie running off with this kinda odd and freaky trio with hardly any questions asked. But to end, they say that his plane crashed in the ocean, making it look like he died, but it hasn't been made clear that they know his alter ego. So what does that even matter? Man, this is getting a bit stupid already. However, this apparent death of Oliver does garner news attention in the USA, along with Naomi, Jax, and Big Boss Emerson all looking into it. Issue number 8 starts with Green Arrow running through a black ice tundra while also being chased by feral wolves, and since he has no weapons, he has to take on the wildlife bare-handed. Then we meet the demented Santa-looking, often-mentioned father of Skylark named Lear, and his 3 daughters that he tinkered with at birth, it's mentioned, are supposedly in competition to win his kingdom through battle for the best favor. Now that is on the friggin' nose. It's also shown that one girl who actually liked Ollie freed him, which has caused some sibling scrapping. GA is next found by some trapper-type guy with atrocious grammar and sentence structure, and after being disarmed by our hero, both men are found by the triplet that's sweet on Arrow, saying her dad wants to invite him back because he now knows he's not gay. I didn't say it, the girl did, and I wish I was joking. Let's just move on with Green Arrow and Blondie taking off after leaving the creepy little goon behind. Also, what is wrong with these reindeer? They do not look okay. Back over to Lear, he welcomes GA back to his palace, wishing to keep him as a guest, so that night Oliver gets his friendly triplet to show him secret labs where it is discovered Mr. Lear is a mad scientist type who collects blood of varying specimens, which was partly why Skylark went after Green Arrow, to acquire his blood for Dad. Yikes. Also, Ollie mentioning the debunking of lemmings leaping to their death due to animals not having suicidal impulses has been the most intelligent thing he's said thus far, which ain't the greatest thing. Anywho, Naomi, Jax, and Emerson are still trying to authenticate if Oliver is truly dead, with things getting dicey when Emerson tries to use the opportunity to completely take over Queen Industries after spreading confirmation to news outlets. However, Naomi forged paperwork to dispute Ollie's death, which gets her fired. Also, no, he wasn't going to join the Justice League, he only got rejected by them 3 times. Cutting back to Canada, Green Arrow and the one girl are now getting spied on by the little mountaineer goon called Gunther, while they check out some more creepy animal experiments such as a beyond beastly polar bear, and after suddenly being found, Arrow says this stuff must stop. But that just leads into Lear going apeshit, smashing up the place. Then it's realized a bow is no good against this foe. Plus, after getting the polar bear released against him, GA has to retreat with his new girlfriend on snowmobile, following behind a flock of crows for some reason. Issue number 9 wraps up this 3-part story, beginning with Ollie and the nice triplets sleeping in a ghost town until being awoken by incoming danger, which allows Green Arrow to pull out a revolver arrow pistol. Don't ask me to elaborate more on that, and he's quick to disarm an aggressively approaching Eskimo group, but the fighting stops after it's found out he's not Lear, who is not very liked in these parts, allowing GA to get some intel and tend to his Skylark girl growing weak due to being too far away from her sisters. The two are then led to the mining village called Old Crow, wherein Lear has seized their gold and is polluting the land, causing all the black ice that's been encountered. He's also ready to track his missing daughter, sending another one out on skis first, while Gunther is seen to be a flunky of his. And I can't forget, that really mean polar bear from earlier is found in Old Crow outside the saloon, drunk. What in the hell am I even reading right now? Where on earth did this idea come from, and who thought it was a good idea? I don't know, and I don't care. Things don't get any less ridiculous after Green Arrow enters the drinking establishment, wherein he's offered muskrat food and told that Judge Roy Bean, who was a real Wild West lawman that owned a bear, is now owner of the polar bear that Oliver seems to want to claim as his own now. Seriously, he keeps calling it his bear going forward. Anyhow, the badly dressed Old Crow residents next want to hang GA over spitting. Seems fair, but he's ready for a fight, beating them all down with his planned execution rope before offering to liberate their gold in exchange for an alliance that is accepted. The Skylark girl is next put to bed while Ollie heads back to the bar for some drinks, also having plans requiring dynamite. However, while he gets inebriated, the triplet that Lear sent out finds and then drugs her sister, causing paralysis in order for her to be tucked under the bed so she can watch her new crush unknowingly sleep with the wrong person. Wow. Just wow. The following morning, Naomi and Jax have appeared to track Arrow after an SOS message he left. Great timing too, because he's finding out that he got tricked by Skylark, having been led into a trap where Lear and the second bad triplet are waiting. So when GA challenges them, the ladies attack first, which doesn't go over well for the two, meaning it is time for a one-on-one with the imposing Lear, and despite getting the piss beat out of him, Green Arrow had already set up dynamite packs that detonate right on time. Except this causes a huge avalanche during the destruction. However, he was unaware rescue was coming. So what was the plan if his two associates didn't conveniently show up? No clue. The good Skylark girl randomly shows up though, and Ollie tells her to join him, but instead she dramatically jumps away to a certain unhappy fate. To end as well, Oliver is told that his company is lost while he was gone. A little extra salt in the wounds. Issue number 10 kicks off a solo story with art by Steve Kurth, and it begins with a dark-haired lady, clearly inspired by Beatrix Kiddo, trying to take a damn header off of a bridge while riding a motorcycle, but is saved by GA, who is not warmly thanked at all. Instead, the lady named Pauline Pearl gets very angry, saying she's actually a robot and no longer wants to exist. I'm already way past questioning the ideas that made it into the page in this book, which means we can move on to Pauline displaying why padded rooms are necessary for suicidal patients sometimes, leading into Green Arrow getting her to hospital where it's found out she is human, just full of strange robotic tech. Then she awakens to tell a bit about herself and fall in love with an X-ray machine. Thanks to a tip regarding a business called Narcotics though, Oliver checks it out where he meets the owner Cyclops, Stan, and he offers a tour, whisking our hero into a scene straight out of Westworld. Pretty much a warehouse full of robots that are a tad too human-like. So Ollie asks to buy them all. A pointless offer really, considering he goes back that night in costume to liberate the robot people who Stan treats terribly, yet they still won't turn on him, instead going after Green Arrow, who tries not to hurt them but does have to defend himself against the big boss robot that isn't human at all. Not sure why that one was full-on robot while no one else was. Alas, Pauline arrives next to strangle Stan into admitting he used to be a psychiatrist that couldn't help his patients with their problems, so he decided to turn them into emotionless robots instead. That is both utterly twisted and highly nonsensical, and so many other things that I don't have time to get into right now. Anyway, Stan is somewhat defeated, and all of his robot people leave him now, as GA speaks with Pearl about her future, and to finish, a major question-inducing Robots Anonymous group therapy class is shown. Issue number 11 opens on Oliver Queen participating in a celebrity poker game and being badmouthed by the media right up until the event is crashed by a pair of Robin Hood-inspired vigilantes known as Bunny and Dark Arrow, who go on to rob everyone while saying they're stepping up for Green Arrow since he's been lacking on helping the city's poor lately. More on that statement later, because the two arrow-toting thieves are met by the Emerald Archer himself outside, and he kinda tries to have a conversation with them at first, but they pick a fight instead, which is an awful idea due to Bunny trying to poorly burn GA alive and then abandon her partner, and he's taken down immediately, shortly followed by Bunny. What was that all about? They are seen once more though, with Dark Arrow truly giving money to the poor and Bunny being called insane by her dad. We'll never see these two again, so I'm not giving them any more thought, and nor should you. Oliver is next seen chatting up a cute redhead in a bar, coming off rather smug and arrogant regarding civil rights protests and wealth management in the country, which I did not understand after remembering Ollie had moments in Volume 1 and Justice League Volume 2 that clearly had him looking like he definitely cared about the average person. Also, his counter-argument about certain movements needing leaders like MLK and Gandhi allows me to say that the lady here could have retorted by saying a leader opens opportunity to severely damage the entire movement by eliminating that leadership, which happened to those two gentlemen that were used as an example. Choosing a single leader can be a dangerous thing sometimes. Anyway, Oliver finds out the next day that Jax and Naomi are quitting on him because Queen Industries is in the toilet. However, it's not totally his fault due to Emerson loading the company with debt, plummeting the stock, thus making it easy for a buyout, which happened via a Chinese businessman named Jin Fang, but he doesn't want to take it over. Instead, he wants to barter with Oliver in China. And for some reason, Ollie thinks that this is all a test set up by his dad beyond the grave. Sure, why not? No problemo on going east though, thanks to a random stealth jet of Robert Queen's being found in storage, and a new ally to Green Arrow, Jimmy Crew, being introduced, then saying that he will fly them to Asia. Once they're in the air, some foreshadowing comes with Jimmy using a grapple claw gadget of arrows, and then they discuss facial recognition programs Q-Core invented that's called Wolf Tech. Both important because when Ollie meets Jin Fang, he is told that he can have his company back in exchange for the Wolf Tech, which is flat out rejected because Oliver says it's a personal invention and doesn't belong to Queen Industries, causing Fang to then sick his goons on Mr. Queen, forcing him to jump into action while snatching Jin's cell phone with his pickpocket claw. Issue number 12 continues right from the previous one, with Ollie taking on Jin's big tattooed henchmen, cracking their kneecaps with jade statues before being attacked by Fang's Chow Chow, and he himself now wearing a traditional Chinese mask costume known as Bian Lian. The two men don't fight for long though. Instead, Oliver is just told that if he doesn't hand over his Wolf Tech, then Jin will destroy Queen Industries as soon as possible. So our star vacates the premises to think things over. He goes on to meet up with the now gray-haired, for some reason, Jimmy Crew, showing the cell phone of Fang's that was snatched, and then gets told that they must rendezvous with Chinese hero Suzy Ming. But Ollie isn't keen on any more help, going out to hit the streets alone, which Jimmy exclaimed is a bad idea, and because GA was pretty much the opposite of clever and astute in this story, he gets hit with knockout gas 2 minutes into his solo endeavor, later waking up in some illegal prison. Lucky for him, though, another prisoner named Kit Kang speaks English and says this place will be the last one ever for those behind the bars, meaning Oliver has to pull some convenient BS, otherwise known as using a special hologram image device that he invented but we've never seen nor remotely heard of before until 2 scenes ago, and he uses it to fool the guards with holo images of, Caucasian females, which allows him to break out with Kit. Then, after getting a hold of one of his arrow weapons, the escape is completed when the jailers are subdued. Wrapping up on Mr. Crew, he's working on his golf game with Suzy Ming, who's quite the acrobat, and they decide to let GA and Jin settle their dispute unhindered. Speaking of Fang, he's lastly seen with his 3 children in the family cemetery doing a resurrection of their grandparents, thus producing ghosts of his parents. Issue number 13 concludes this book with the art changing hands to Freddie Williams II, and here Green Arrow has invaded Jin's home, pretending then trying to prove that it's not wildly obvious that he's also Oliver Queen, while cutting off the ponytails of 2 bodyguards, which in many Asian cultures is an extremely humiliating thing to do to someone. Fang next starts tossing razor masks out, but that's just merely a distraction for a spirit attack, as Green Arrow has to somehow fight them now, and stupidly thinks arrows can do damage, leading into a rather uncomfortable face-to-face with his ghostly foes. Yes, this scene also had me thinking of the end of Army of Darkness. Suzy Ming couldn't help herself, however, and comes to the rescue while saying that these ghosts need to be taken to a graveyard of stone warrior statues, so Arrow joins her on this task. Jin's 3 children also seem to be especially interested in watching their dead relatives trying to literally create more associates of the afterlife. Lovely. And as they follow Suzy and Green Arrow, those 2 discuss how the wolf tech must be given up to Fang, but not in the way he plans. Back to that later, because ghost grandparents have been led to a tomb obviously inspired by the Terracotta Army, right before Miss Ming uses her special death sword to extinguish one of the phantom foes, thus saving Ollie. It's not 100% enough, though. Instead, to permanently deal with these spirits, the Stone Army's blades are forced upon them, which has the trio of messed up kids freaking out. GA and Suzy then take off together so that later on Oliver Queen can hand over his wolf tech in trade for his company back, except he rigged it to be a tracking unit now that will relay all the activity Fang does with it. No clue how he could do that, but okay. Ollie then meets up with Suzy, revealing his hero secret in hopes they can continue to be allies, and to finish, it's back to brown-haired Jimmy accompanying GA to Seattle, where they are immediately met by a group of Thanagarian aliens because a crossover with Hawkman is on the horizon. Alright. How shall I describe the plot to begin these final thoughts? Bonkers, all over the place, frenetic, unexpected, completely out of the normal, and bizarre. That's just scratching the surface, too. The Lear and Skylark caper was something I've never quite read before. 1 second, Green Arrow is banging triplets, then he's fighting enemies straight out of a 1960s spaghetti western, while trying to save experiment animals against a villain he doesn't even defeat. The mini-story with the robo-humans had some potential, but was already dead on arrival because a 3-part plotline involving a lot of Chinese slander is mixed in, which involves conflict that could have been resolved if Ollie simply decided not to do so many root vegetable IQ level things. Just like him trusting Jimmy with his hero secret after not even a consult, after running away to Canada with 3 girls that he just met. As for the dialogue, it had me questioning a lot of things. None of them good. I'll say this. Along with Macbeth, King Lear is among my most admired Shakespeare work, and after the first act here, I was ready to leave old Williams books on my shelf for a bit. Things just came off feverish and hard to stay with at times. If I were to give examples, this video would be 40 minutes long, but take my word on this. You'll be lowering and raising your eyebrows quite often during these 7 issues. Now for the art last. The main stuff had many amazing features, super intricate and detailed, an excellent eclectic group of character designs, a wide variety of location drawings with vibrant color and smooth shading. It was for sure the best part of this volume. I'm gonna wrap things up here and say thank you if you've watched until the end, and please like, share, and subscribe. Please follow me on all my social media platforms, and to please join me next time for Red Lanterns Volume 2.